I want to thank everyone for coming out today. I am pleasantly pleased with the turnout, especially diverse different amounts of groups here today. Really is a strong showing of solidarity by the Penn State movement to come out here and talk about a very important issue. It's not often that student leaders converge and take a stance, but I'm happy to say that today, on that day, there is an issue at hand that has the potential to impact not just the current student body, but generations of Penn Staters to come. Penn State has lived up to its mission as a land-grant institution, providing top-notch education and out-of-class experiences for the middle and working class of Pennsylvania throughout its history. As you're aware, the economic downturn has placed new financial constraints on all of us. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and Penn State University is not immune to this. While there's a need to be fiscally conservative, there's also a responsibility to look out for the well-being of students who attend the school. It should not be overlooked that Penn State has campuses all across the Commonwealth, which provide jobs and stability to many talented students. By cutting over $20 million a year for Penn State appropriation will actually lead to negative results for the state of Pennsylvania. With less funding, Penn State has two options: reduce jobs and greatly increase tuitions. I am assured that the latter is not being considered, but job reduction is the biggest possibility. The state obviously needs to make cuts in effort to keep a balanced budget. It is imperative that we reduce an appropriation that the legislator does not also cut out the spirit of the Commonwealth within. There is a reason why over 100,000 students apply to Penn State every year. There is a reason why 100,000 people show up on Saturdays in the fall. And there is certainly a reason why we're all here today. It is the Penn State commitment to excellence, a commitment that is evident in every sector of this great state. The university has produced CEOs, scientists, doctors, senators, and even governors. It is with its knowledge of the great impact that Penn State has had. It is thoroughly disappointed that we are at the top of the list for budget cuts. More importantly than the budget cuts is also the amount of financial aid given to students. The governor has announced an ambitious plan to give large sums of aid to students in the 14 state schools and community colleges. While we also applaud the governor's effort to address this need, there is no reason to cut out the core state-related schools, teaching at Penn State and also receiving further aid. The aid the governor has proposed would be funded for video gambling and would lessen the burden of students whose families make $100,000 or less. At Penn State alone, this would mean a whopping 30,958 students would receive this aid. If that number doesn't say, then here are a few others. Over 25% of family incomes are less than $40,000. Over 25% of Penn State students are first-generation attendees. And most importantly, 75% of Penn State students depend on financial aid to attend. The need for aid is more pertinent than ever, especially with other aid being reduced. Like all state recipients across the Commonwealth, the maximum grant to Penn State students was reduced by $530 last year, resulting in a net $10 million loss in our aid to low and moderate income Pennsylvania students who are actually served by this program. When I thought about this occasion, I wanted to look at the quotes and give historical reference to this, and really the burden of having public education. I want to know another to former U.S. President John Adams for a quote. He said, "Laws for the liberal education of youth, especially for the lower class, are so extremely wise and useful to a humane and generous mind. No expense for this purpose will be thought extravagant." Adams goes as far as to say laws should be made for the youth of our nation to receive education, and no expense is too much. It is sad to say that the idea of the state providing education to the lower class of our country is not as pertinent today. When a budget crisis comes, sadly the reaction is to axe education funding. It is further disappointing to see prospective students being segregated to certain universities based upon their economic ability. Penn State, as a land-grant school, has a responsibility to offer education to the economically diverse. In order to do this, state funds to students' education should be based on the needs of students and not target on the basis of students' college choice. Because I chose to attend the greatest school in the state of Pennsylvania over a state school should mean I do not receive the same basic aid to support my education. The intent of the governor's plan is to help families across the Commonwealth who are being burdened by these current economic times. In truth, the plan by the governor is excellent in that it addresses the needs of Pennsylvania. But Penn State families are not immune from the impact of the economy. While the intention of the governor is certainly there, I say go further. Do not shut your doors in the Penn State student body, because although today it may not seem a pressing issue, it will 10 years from now, when the byproducts of Penn State supplementing the work field of Pennsylvania aren't there because at the time we simply couldn't afford it. We are all grateful to have the privilege to attend our dear old state, but part of being a Penn Stater is responsibility to look out for future generations. This is why we are here today, to put an emphatic emphasis on the need for further aid, as well as to ask that Penn State be rewarded for the great impact they have had on this Commonwealth. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again for joining us. My name is George Coy, and I currently serve as the president of the Council of Commonwealth Student Governments, which represents the 19 Commonwealth campuses and over 40,000 students. We're here today because Governor Rendell has proposed a tuition relief program that offers up to $7,600 in financial aid to students and neglects Penn State students. This, along with a proposed $21 million cut in state funding for next year, is a slap in the face to the 80,000 students attending classes at Penn State locations, courtesy of Governor Rendell, and his opinion that not all Pennsylvania students should be treated with equal financial support. We have entered a dark period for the students here at Penn State. Penn State students must take action immediately. Over time, Penn State's appropriation from the state has been teetering, with the students and administration fighting for every last penny. Even worse, this past year, Penn State had to give back money to the state. And even so, after giving back money to the state, the governor is now planning to spend more for student aid and neglecting each and every one of you and the people to come. Penn State is a highly ranked Research 1 university with a strong mission for teaching, research, and service. And if Mr. Rendell crunched the numbers, he would find that every dollar Harrisburg contributes to Penn State returns $19 in direct and indirect net economic benefits to the state. Ed Rendell's proposal to help students afford the cost of public higher education in the Commonwealth should be based on the needs of the students, as Gavin said, and not on the basis of a student's college choice. Students choose Penn State, one of the most popular universities, if not the most popular university in the world, for its high-quality education and its massive global network of alumni. Students deserve to come here and should not be limited because of financial obligations. We Penn State students should be included in the group to receive up to $7,600 in aid. Penn State is Pennsylvania's only land-grant institution and always have the mission to serve the Commonwealth. Penn State has also one of the largest percentages of Pell Grant recipients in the country, at 22%. This is 16,476 students. These 16,000 students are not just a very large number, but are real people like you and me with stories, dreams, goals, and aspirations. These students would be eligible for up to $7,600 if they were coming to Penn State this coming year, and aid if they attended any state school. But since they are choosing to attend Penn State, they would be excluded in Governor Rendell's proposal. This is sickening. As Pennsylvania's largest public research university, with over $700 million in research expenditures this past year alone, it is critical that low and middle income families have access to the unique high-quality education that we offer. Penn State creates new knowledge that directly benefits people's lives. That knowledge runs a large spectrum, from the creation of microbial fuel cells to a program that educates South African youth against the spread of AIDS, to the promise of a new treatment for a lethal form of cancer. Less recognized, again, is the major economic impact that Penn State has on the state and national level. Penn State has a net economic impact being roughly $6.14 billion. Penn State graduates a high percentage of low and middle income students who go on for more advanced studies and whose return on investment to the Commonwealth is especially important. Giving up to $7,600 per student to students attending state schools, and excluding Penn State, the largest generator of economic impact to the state, would be a very empty investment. Penn State students and prospective students are not exempt from the same economic turmoil that other students across Pennsylvania face. All of you here clearly see the urgency in this situation. Penn State has done everything possible to minimize its tuition increases in recent years, especially at the Commonwealth campuses, where many low-income students begin their degree programs. A low state appropriation without adequate funding, without adequate student financial aid support to Penn State will be a staunch 1-2 punch to both the students and their families. Most likely, cuts will have to be made across the university to maintain a reasonable level of tuition increase, which would cut services, programs, and opportunities that the students currently enjoy and deserve. Families who cannot afford to pay for their son or daughter to attend Penn State, usually their first choice, would be forced to send them to a state school or community college, with virtually no other sources of financial aid available. Penn State students have roughly $6,300 in unmet need after available grants, scholarships, and student loans applied to the cost. This figure is almost exactly about what my unmet need was this year. I myself had to seek additional funds to cover this gap, which was painfully difficult as I was ineligible for many of the sources of funding I was previously eligible for. This was an extremely difficult challenge in these tough economic times. And while I was fortunate enough to get through it, some of my peers around me have not been. Those students at Penn State pursuing their education in this economy are struggling. Faced with the choice of paying their rent or paying for their books for this semester, my friend had to defer buying his books for classes just to pay for his rent, and currently goes to the library to read everything needed for his course material. I admire that person's resilience greatly, but I wish I'd never hear a story like this again, as this should never happen in the first place. This is just one story, but everyone here recognizes the challenge we have before us. We see the threat that Governor Rendell's proposed state appropriation has, and his blatant ignorance in excluding Penn State students in his new plan. He should be proposing a plan to help all students in Pennsylvania, all students attending public institutions, all students that meet the criteria should be included. We should be included. The variety of choices in which we are to receive our higher education is a strength of the entire system. One should never be forced out of an option to attend Penn State. We are all here because we love Penn State, and now faced with this reality, we must all stand together. I encourage you all to go back to your organizations, to your parents, relatives, friends, and urge them to write letters to our representatives, to our senators, and to our governor, who has clearly forgotten that we exist. We must act swiftly and boldly for any action to be taken. But I am confident that the same state that won the Super Bowl and the World Series and has the best student section in NCAA football can now unite to show our government more than what we want, but what we deserve. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming today. Today is a great day in Happy Valley. Good afternoon. My name is Karen Kennedy, and I'm currently serving as the Pennsylvania State University College Chapter of the NAACP. Penn State was founded in 1855 as a publicly supported agricultural college. It brought sciences to bear on old age problems of food and fiber production. It broadened its mission a few years later after Congress passed the Morrill Land Grant Act in 1862. The act encouraged institutions of higher education nationwide to add engineering, mining, agriculture, and other applied sciences to existing courses of study that were grounded in arts and letters. These subjects would be useful to a nation that was just beginning to enter a period of unprecedented economic and technical growth. Penn State's very purpose is written at the top of the columns that stand behind me: to promote liberal and practical education in several pursuits and professions of life. We stand here to agree in agreement and in opposition. An agreement and affirmation for the act that's being created for tuition relief. That would create access to education. Through this package, students would not only be able to attend universities, but will also be given a chance to attend school. We will see an increase in retention rates, as students will not have to drop out due to lack of monetary funds. Through this package, Pennsylvania will be following into the footsteps of many states who have similar programs. But here's where we disagree. The proposed budget by Governor Rendell reduces the choices of schools that students of low economic status can attend. Why should these students be kept out of institutions such as Penn State if they are academically qualified to attend? Why should students be forced to make the choice between quality over affordability? Students within the state of Pennsylvania have the right to be provided access to great faculty, research, and opportunities. They should not be forced to attend different schools because of what they have access to. The governor's plan marginalizes approximately 30,000 students within the Penn State system who would qualify for this program. What are they to do? Are they simply to leave the university at Penn State has gotten too expensive for them? Or should they be able to benefit as well? My suggestion is that Governor Rendell please rethink the amount of money that he's allocating through his video poker. Why not reduce the amount to $3,800 per student, making it affordable for Penn State and other institutions to be included? We should not be punished for attending a research-run institution. We should not be relegated to a state-owned system. We should have the right to choose which institutions of higher education we want to attend. And with all due respect, the governor's plan will cause a large increase in tuition, loss of diversity and experiences. And I know that as Penn Staters, this is not what we want. That is neither fair nor just, as education and an excellent education is a right and not a privilege. I commend the governor on his recommendations, as it is noble to decrease the tuition gap by increasing student grants. But let's work together on inclusiveness and making education affordable to all in the state of Pennsylvania. So how do we fix the situation? It's nice to see you all out here, but what we should do is write our state senators and representatives, call the governor's office, hold our politicians accountable. We voted for them in office and they are accountable and work for us. As Penn State students, it is our purpose to make sure that we protect the university. It is our purpose to promote the welfare and perpetuate its traditions. As we have stepped into the university, we've become its gatekeepers, its promoters, and its perpetuators. It has become our responsibility to preserve the university system as we know it and to leave a legacy and institution for future Penn Staters. Please go to your organizations, to your families, and let's all work together. Let's not forget what it means. Let's show Harrisburg how much we care, and let's begin to establish our own scholarship programs that let the state know that we are willing to work with tuition, with the tuition issue. Awesome, excuse me. As access to education is just as much of our responsibility as it is theirs. If they see that we care about our future Penn Staters, they will work with us also. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Luke Pierce, and I am currently serving as the Interfraternity Council President, today representing the more than 3,500 University Park students of fraternity and sorority women. I'd like to again thank all of you for coming out and congregating today. The world is facing unparalleled global economic crisis. Despite being nestled in our valley, we are not immune from financial disparity. The financial crisis has touched each of us in different ways. A number of our parents have lost their jobs. Many of our family members have seen their retirement money wiped out in the downward spiral of the stock markets. Some of us standing here today have been forced to seek out alternative opportunities for our summer internships. For each of us standing here today, our stories are different, but we all hold one thing in common. We are Penn State students. Our choice to attend Penn State, perhaps one of the best choices we will make in our lives, may now be out of reach for some of those who aspire to follow in our footsteps. Our legislators and our governor, Ed Rendell, have acted to provide assistance to the families who are feeling the greatest impact of the current economic environment. Unfortunately, state-related universities, namely Penn State, have been excluded from this assistance. State-owned schools and community college will have their reduction in the state grant program restored, and then some. Meanwhile, state-related universities like Penn State will not even have the benefit of simply restoring the loss of our grants. Student aids for those who choose to attend our university will plummet, all but placing Penn State on a top shelf, high above the reach of many low and middle income families of this great state. This means a brother or a sister, a friend or a cousin may not have the same opportunities that we were afforded. Their desire to attend Penn State, to become a Nittany Lion, may never become a reality simply because they cannot afford it. The decision to exclude Penn State from this new financial assistance ignores the fact that our families are not immune from the financial crisis. Furthermore, when the market rebounds and when our economy inevitably recovers, the families of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania will be again left holding the bag for the irresponsible decisions of our legislators. What will happen when the low and middle income families cannot afford a Penn State education? What will happen when the state of the Commonwealth no longer receives the direct economic benefit that is generated from our university? The governor's new program should be a program to help students. All students at public institutions who meet the criteria should be included. It is important to remember our role as stewards of the traditions of this great university. Traditions that are embedded to the fabrics of our organization and sealed in the stones of our walls. It is our responsibility to learn and to care for them, to protect for them, and to provide for their future existence. Our predecessors before us honored this stewardship, and so do all of you, so do all of us standing here together, calling for action. For many of us, this show of solidarity we are witnessing here today is perhaps unparalleled in our time as undergraduates. Today, the more than 15 major student organizations that have come together to call for action. We are witnesses to something truly special. Today, we stand as brothers as sisters, as Penn State students. Today we call on our legislators, our governor, and our administrators of this university to come together to provide for a more certain and more attainable future for the generation of Penn Staters who will follow us. Thank you very much.
Just want to thank everybody for coming out. This was a really strong program. I felt like I was really happy with the attendance. But one rally, one press conference, one headline won't make any difference. This is the start of a campaign to really bring attention to this issue. The fact that Penn State is not being included in this idea of aid will have such adverse effects for this university in the future. This is a land-grant institution. It's important that we remember that. So leave with that today. I see a lot of different student organizations here. I ask that you all get involved and keep up with this. This is not a UPUA, CCSG, NAACP, IFC issue. This is a Penn State issue. It's not a political issue, it's a Penn State issue. So we'll need your support in the future as we continue on. Thank you all for coming.